干净开表足见宗高，罗桑差别小老所望的明灭自为的见见人，前面见别王不长别。对波马律中在上面的干净开。罗山这边小老所望的邦的在为拉玛人波，大所几无人变的天修老干净前边过接受。故中途经我中这都是邦的在为拉玛人波。大所宁个人变的天修老高的前边关，确当天目我中这都是邦的在拉玛人不见。大所宁个人变面天修高的前边关，常住宁边八度。两把人肉，马上绝灭，血浪爬入，马街马岗南给我，说说让人一些，推送也为用，长子路，对阳堂，高的高的。巴拉嘎的巴拉三个，左哈的要他嘎的嘎的，巴拉嘎的巴拉三个，我的要左哈的要他嘎的嘎，巴拉嘎的巴拉三给了东大家族希望的没得没别见，就少些别念，就。这大概去就人这边所能见，罗拉平时上见着不能说。所见中南老将中帮东当年家所见，大概去就人这边所能见，罗拉平时上见着不能说。 let us cultivate bodhicitta motivation, or the altruistic motivation, seeking complete enlightenment for the benefit of all other sentient beings. And with that kind of at least contrite bodhicitta motivation, we should participate in this Bodhisattva's discourse on the perfection of samadhi or concentration. So we are on page 118 of this English translation of the guide by Stephen Batchelors, and we stopped at stanza 90 right on the top. And so the topic which we previewed, so to speak, last week is the need to equalize self with others first, and then we could exchange self with others. So that's presented in a synoptic form and in a detailed way. So now we will start looking at the detailed presentation of equalizing and exchanging self with others.
Helia, the Gayo, till some of the door to work, Chikmas was the Swanyo, the Chipachita Chadi, said that day, Roger did Shoksur, Gaga Chikma, to game with the Roger, Mumsa, Lord, God or Rakaji. So Tishu Shabogo, the Nyama till Nams in the Terakaji. The game with the Bada, the one de Nyama. What tell the Nyama, see what I. She said, "Do get to get you the music." That is number you do like in the wrong shape on your shit. Curse up, she knew that Queen somebody see your door. This was the idea, but about the Yama, the Yabushi pay. You are don't race or that. The go Lela Jota. Sujata doing me, they were take a Gagachian was the one me doing a dress Yamara. So the Gumla or Dura, Tishu Shabo comes on, and the Jia some get to race. Tishu Shabo Magun, Jia some get to Maris.
As Krishna read from the extensive commentary and explained, one of the ways to cultivate bodhicitta, the altruistic mind of enlightenment or bodhisattva state of mind, is through the meditational instruction and technique called equalizing and exchanging self with others, Dakshin Nyamche in Tibetan. So we're looking at this particular instruction and practice here. As Geshe explained, the first thing first, we have to make every effort to be able to establish the equalities between self and others, so that we are able to equalize self with others. And the way to do that is to recognize that just as I want the best of everything for myself, profit, gain, happiness, victory, everything good I wish for myself, in the same way we should recognize that everybody else has exactly the same wish. They would like to have the gain, profit, happiness, victory. Yeah? So in that regard, we and others are same in that we are wishing for happiness or the best of everything. So we don't see any difference between self and others. Relatedly, just as I do not wish for any kind of suffering, problem, unwanted things happen to me, in the same way everybody else has the same wish. They don't wish for suffering, problems, and any unwanted things happen in their life. Again, in this respect also, we and others are exactly the same. So we have to establish the equalities between self and others and recognize that. Make every effort to be able to see that from within and feel that, right, effectively. So when we have that deeper understanding and experience, effective state of mind, seeing the equalities between self and others, then it becomes relatively easy now to be able to start exchanging self with others. If we do not really deeply feel the equalities between self and others in terms of wishing for happiness, not wishing for suffering, somehow in our mind we feel like that maybe it's not exactly the same, but actually it is not, right? There isn't any sentient being who wants any kind of suffering, problems, and there isn't any sentient being who doesn't want happiness and goodness. So we are really exactly the same, but at the moment we have really not recognized that deeply from within, and we have not felt it that way. That's why we find ourselves cherishing ourselves more than the others. That's why we have a tendency to ignore and neglect other people's well-being because, so that shows that we really have not realized deeply and effectively, emotionally, that equality between self and others. So we have to do every effort to be able to do that first.
What is the Karza? Teach my gender, the lawyer, so pretty simple. Jola, Timagena, Dahin, lawyer, Tichevana, Dahin, lawyer, Jella, so she. Keda Tambu Yamani, Yabelo Magena, Napset, Newsom, Boy, Lomijela. Timagation, Teda Mabana, Jella, Shishiba, Major. Timagena da Tenzin go metapace. She make you lot nema jeta maybe. Da she make you nema jeta maybe. Tomara da he nyamba gumgo sauce. Or this said da he nyamba say. The gumsu Napsa Suro, the Yamasi, they do about the Jiva, the women, the Yama Yinza, any called Nusum Shada, called Kursa, Mikashi, and the Nordus or Consi, Nusum Shina Carson, Nusum Samotana, and the called Carson, the Yama Yinza, the women, the other Yamas, called New York, some of the Shooks on Rua. So no Mila New Tracy Marisano. So Petlani, any here, Passamo to Casa, Dajan Yamas, or did social some of the governor, Tom of the Gunguris. Tiabo Magona, any here, but news of the Napset, some of the here, Pendo, Gemma Jetu Maris. Timothy, the Yabati Kesamoris. That the Yabati Kona, my son of the Jiva Chicken, the Gumshemi Kayamara, the other, the women, Chiba in the sea and the Kahaku. What is it?
So as Kishla continues to explain, that this is the first step. We need to really focus and do very well. The first step is to establish the equalities between self and others and recognize those equalities deeply from within and effectively. And if we fail here, so to speak, then it is very hard for us to develop altruism or the wish to benefit others. It's not possible. So equalizing self with others means that we put everybody on the same level, right? Equal, same footing. We recognize that everybody wishes for happiness. There is no exception to this. Nobody wishes for suffering, and there is no exception to this. Now, these things are not something difficult to understand. We already know this, right? But the challenge for us is that we have not familiarized our mind with this way of thinking, So this is why when we don't deeply recognize and effectively recognize this equality between self and others, then we have a tendency to pursue our own selfish interests over others' well-being, and we have a tendency to neglect everybody else's well-being, But on the other hand, if we really familiarize our mind with this first step, equalizing self with others, so once really we deeply feel that and recognize, understand that, then we will never think of hurting and harming others. Yeah? And when others are doing well, successful, we are going to be happy. We are not going to be jealous because that we know. Everybody wants that, so it's going well for them. And So we will rejoice in that. But when we don't recognize the equalities between self and others deeply, then we know that when others are doing well, we are not happy. We could become jealous. And that we don't mind in the process of finding our own happiness that others get hurt, because that doesn't seem to matter. So this is why this is a very crucial step. And if we do very well here, then let's say very well here means from deep within, we recognize, familiarize with this thinking and effectively, then it becomes easier for us to be able to do the next practice, which is exchanging self with others.
Keta thangpo nyamba lo majina napse ta nusumsa napse sana tirta yidi mo riwa ta nusumsa na nipa shindu samruwa hotin dogu bari siwa ta sheda karsa soda rangje higun sambo jima yijil pika hien pento nipa poya kris lo geta umaris hotirwa mijela Tima Geshe, Teda Mabana Stat, Nabsum, the Nusum Mabana, and the Dahiyama get to Marwa. Dahiyama get to Mari, Dahiyama make a Jaya Yamari. She said, so was the massacre was made. Tombo Tomboya, Dahiyama Guya Teres. That Dahiyama Guya Teria, long the required which I go Martiava, was the Gagaha Hajita. Mister in the court, the women they were the other the Suji in the Kawata, Lojoshi Maji, she did she Yomara. What is it?
So as Krishna explains that this step number 1 is very instrumental and crucial, that we really don't need much of valid reasonings or analysis or spiritual quotation authority, just to recognize that everybody wishes for happiness and nobody wishes for suffering. Yeah, this is given thing. We all know it's nothing difficult. We don't need have a whole lot of analysis reasons to establish this. The only issue we have is we have not really cultivated that thinking and familiarized our mind with that thinking. So this is why we find ourselves always putting the self before others, isn't it? And we find ourselves hurting others. We find ourselves not being happy when others are happy. Why these negative thoughts arise is because of the fact that we do not recognize that self and others are same or equal in that we wish for goodness, happiness, and nobody wish for bad things and suffering. So as Geshe explained, that this is like the principal money we need to invest in our spiritual enterprise, isn't it? If we don't have any money, we can't do any business, right? So this step number 1 is like the principal amount of money that's required to be able to set up our spiritual enterprise and practice here. So basically, we take ourselves as an example, right? And we look at ourselves like, what do you want? Well, I want happiness. I want profit. I want gain. I want victory. I don't want anything bad to happen to me, right? So that's who we are. Everybody wants that. So now it's exactly the same if we put others in the same situation. They exactly want the same thing. What I don't want, suffering, problems, and all of that, and nobody wants the same thing. So we are exactly the same, That is a kind of a given thing, but yet we have really not deeply acquainted our mind with that, and this is why we are stuck, not being able to develop altruism and things like that.
the Tanyama Shidaguna, Dog Deva Deva Las, Dungam Deva Hindi, Shenji Deva Deva Dungam by Nyambatang. Take your dal Deva Penji, Dungaji, Neva Hindi, here Deva Penji, Dungaji, never young Nyambara, Nyabina, Simja Tamji. Da Hindu, the Chiva Sunnis, Suma Sharila, Sungzu Yang, Dag Deva Shedi Nyane, Shedi Nyane, Joshi Dunga Shedi, Goba Hindi, Shedi Dunga, they do Lion, round the Tsumbaras, and Dolensi Hindi Shiva there. Dewa driva ta sa dunge gopi se goyin ne se suwe se chawa yin la wo de dunge song che shebe to toya de ros o dire ta kaje soso le kare se be jiba shin jigo ya giden kare se na soso be dewa yo ne ga pedo ta dunge minde wa nashi go this years and the ranchi this at your was. She said, Tina, yes, if you tell me like the other Chiba, dunge minde Chiba Chica, so some of Chiba Chica in the that's also like the Agu is simply to that be the Agu Marcia, something Gavara, Chiba Chica, be regretted, do not. Can you go do so dunge minde? And she died doing do my so the other she died doing do. The music was chicken user and tell you so that the she died doing some of the time. They no dream, but they call Carson Sayako, do the chick was on that. And do the chick because you line so that the guy she died doing the gashina and you call Carsa. Tade, she don't easily lost gate or she don't go in this, they were chick what doing it, they were chick what ready. Some Nalaya, so the shade doing Miduna doing some and moving is to the gator. Or so that it is altogether Rigbanjotan, some of the township. Anyway, the shades was here, some of the jungle is over there.
First, we look within ourselves and we can see clearly, not only that, we feel that way very strongly, and not only that, we do whatever we can to fulfill our own wishes, right? I want happiness, profit, gain, the best of everything. And not only I wish for that, whatever possibly I could do, I'm willing to do that to fulfill my wish. I do not wish any kind of problem or suffering. Not only that, that's what I feel, but I do everything to prevent suffering, my problem. Okay? And we feel this is justified. Now, if we look at others, what do they wish? It's exactly the same thing. Nobody among sentient beings who is seeking suffering and problems. Okay? Nobody among sentient beings does not want happiness. So we have exactly the same aspirations and wishes, so if we recognize that, then we will see that just as it is right for me to do everything to find my happiness, so it's also right to do everything to help others find their happiness. Just as it's right to do everything for me to prevent my suffering and resolve it, it is also justified to help others to, prevent their suffering and resolve their, suffering. So it's exactly the same thing. And if we are not doing that, in our mind, if we have, some exceptions to that, right? I'm above kind of thing, and everybody else not. Then, that's against the very realities, isn't it? The reality is that everybody wants happiness and nobody wants suffering. That is a reality. So checking our own mindset against that reality, if we make an exception that I'm somebody exception, I want happiness, I want suffering, maybe among sentient beings it's not exactly the same thing, then we are going against the realities as it is, and that is not correct. And so we need to correct that mindset. This is what is holding us back, from treating everybody equally and be happy when they are happy. So in our cultivation practice, this is what we have to do. Just as I wish for happiness and I do what I can to find my happiness, I have every right. It is just to do that. In the same way, everybody else wishes for happiness, and they have the right to pursue their happiness. So there is no difference here, just as I do not wish for suffering and I do anything to prevent my suffering, I do anything to resolve my suffering, it's exactly the same that everybody else doesn't want suffering, and they have the right to prevent their suffering and resolve their suffering. And so not only that, from Bodhisattva's point of view, it is right for me to do what I can to find happiness for others, and do what I can to prevent and resolve other suffering, because there is no exception in this particular case, as we were saying before, that there's no way I can justify like I deserve all the best of everything, as if somebody else out there, they really don't deserve it, because that, as said, is against the realities as it is. And just tell anybody, just go and say, hey, you know what? I don't care what happens to you, any bad things, but I want to be happy. Well, that statement doesn't fly over anybody, isn't it? And everybody thinks like, what are you saying? I'm exactly the same as you, so why would you think that way and say that to me, right? So you can see that how wrong that is as we say it. So I think this is important for us to really deeply realize and effectively feel the equalities between self and others. So when we cultivate such a state of mind and we effectively feel that, then we and others are same in wishing for happiness and don't wish for suffering, then we are willing to do what we can to help others, isn't it? Helping others does not necessarily mean that we have to empty our bank account and give everything to them. It doesn't mean that. Helping others can come in many easy ways too, isn't it? It only means that if you have some informational help, right? You just share that information, and it doesn't cost you anything, but yet it is very helpful, isn't it? Helping others means that the way we treat each other, we treat each other with respect. That is good. And of course, if you can share what you can, resources, that's good. But it doesn't necessarily mean that we have to renounce everything we have and give it to everybody else, right? Then that's what helping others mean.
Oh, did I? Niba Jeva Heva la Sums. Nyamba Chita Gumzis, there's a bamboo. Seva Bamba was, Puma. Tada Gumi Payonos, Tamolas, La Pala Shazo de Della, the Dugun Dolenges, Dolin Tsumbar Giovanni. Kidden Joani, Lada Miso, Tateva Tuma Yela, the Duga Tateva Tuma Yimishir. Tadak the Dugun Dolin, La, round the Tsumbe, lost the Jackie Jena. Jome depend. Rang Luchibu de la Yang Yala de Yela Goni, so Chena Lagba de Kambala Sova, Ye Namja, Mounty Yang Titam Jela, Dadu Shembi, Dag Lunyam du Sones, Yo Son Shaju Luso, Sigwatar. To the Chita Hindu, rig the Kenny reason, the thing going flat the missile enjoy Shisha, Tadi to my Yera, Tidaki Deduka, Just Tadi to my Yeka, Dad Shembe. Dag Simje Namdu Swana Tamje Sumje Simje du Chikwe Joata de Yatagi, they do Tagi, Dolin Tadi, Ya Mirigde Number Mambo Joa de Tamjija, Tagi, Shida Hindu. Deva the Dunga Mendeva Nyamshin, Sigbi Sher. Tena Tamjela Ming Dadan Jawa Sungnes. And then Duji Deva the dog Jupper Sha. Minduji Dunga the dog Subs dog is Sha Nyam Dus. Tamje is around the Sungbar. Resource, or did it? So that draw to do more the they took the not of the Kakachiba Mari, they do cake, so they do Chiba Mari, Chiba Mari, the Konyama goes over, Chizunga Yamara, or the Kaji, the army do what the women do Chiba Sonda, they do Chizunga Yama, she's that dress on the Chizunga, any Nizu Zatalu do Kari, the Kajakai Mercy. And you don't go that Kanga Samloda, Kanga in the Deva the Dunga to Yamzung Yonza, on the Jogos and no Shishan about Gomjan degrees. Kari the Soso Lule and the Soso Picket, the art to go at the Soso and the Lule and Luke doing a semi doing a Lula and the Shagashana. Dunga watch out is. In a take a solo Dunga Sonda, choice the Golden Dior, what in a Simjama was it. They do Dunga Chesum that the arches of Maboyena, Kolia still simulation, go Mariganga, choice is being any Yama Golden degrees.
So next, Kishala's reading of the commentary and explanation pertains to stanza 91. Now we are getting into the details of how to establish the equalities between self and others, and deeply recognize that and effectively feel that. And so if the question is as if, well, sentient beings are of different kinds, 6 types of migrators, they are not one and the same. And when we think in terms of suffering, the levels of suffering, the amount of suffering, sentient beings are very different. They are not exactly the same thing. So how is it possible that you are telling me that I should think all of them as being same? That's asking too much, so to speak, right? So the response to that is, it's just a way of looking at things, And the example given is, our body has many parts, many limbs, isn't it? We have arms and legs and different parts of the body, but we consider all of them as part of the same body, one body, isn't it? And we want to protect the body, and we don't say like, oh, it's the hand, it's not a body, Yes, if you split it up, we have body, we have mind, different types of mind, different parts of the body. But we are used to thinking that body, it's my body, whether it's my arm or whether it's my head or whether it's my leg, right? I don't differentiate among all these varieties. It's just one body, that wants to be happy, pleasurable. So like that, among sentient beings, there are different types of sentient beings, 6 types of migrators, all different levels of sufferings, all of those exist. So we cannot equalize all of them, but the fact of the matter is that all sentient beings do not wish for suffering in general, isn't it? Whether it's a big suffering or whether it's a small suffering, suffering is a suffering. And so we don't go into splitting everything in categories, but we said all types of suffering, all sentient beings, they wish for happiness, don't wish for suffering. So if we think that way, it's just like all different parts of the body is a body, I need to care for, then that will help us, right, to be able to, equalize self with others.
Kaka so that song they are driven a simply she do maris. Because doing a hit of the course, so she doing shame you, they are seeing you round, they are doing round younger kaka race, love in the Sivada. Younger Kazaka in the Kaji, couldn't do what you was song. Do what you was song either, and that do what you mean to trouble each other. Queen got them by you, and the Queen said them by the bus in the young Queen Goyu said, see what you can say. No do see why you know, Queen never see what on her. What do you never in a Queen pig? They must say what they are, how they care, but you say, Corner Sawa pig. Near don't dig on dog with the jail. Do it idea that they are chasing the rig that they get a Kaimaris. What is it?
And the next stanza, 92, that Geshe explains is, should we feel or think this way, that suffering I experience is my personal suffering, isn't it? The one who experiences is me. Suffering that others experience is their suffering. My suffering does not harm them, and their suffering does not harm me. We are different people, and so I cannot experience their suffering. They cannot experience my suffering. So there is their suffering, my is my suffering. So don't tell me that I have to treat the same. But again, as we say, regardless of the different types of suffering and who is experiencing suffering, at the very ground level, right? Our contention is that nobody wants suffering, right? When I experience suffering, I don't like it, I don't want it. When they experience suffering, yes, I'm not experiencing their suffering, but they don't like it either, they don't want it. So on that level, again, it's the same, because my suffering is, if I see my suffering is something that needs to be gotten rid of, it's exactly the same thing that their suffering, right, needs to be gotten rid of. An example Geshe has given is, let's say if two people are, commit the same crime, then the punishment should be the same, right? We cannot make a distinction like one should get a lighter punishment, the other should, because they did the same thing. Or if both people are telling the truth, so then we have to regard both as truth tellers. We cannot say, oh, one is different than the other, right? That's not fair. So this is why, regardless of who is experiencing suffering, what kind of a suffering, the contention is that suffering is a suffering and nobody wants it. Okay? So on that ground, we should treat self and others as equal.
Well, that is a karza. Sizu suma mirigusena, jo medi keda dag dungi hengi. Lula ngosu mineba teda inaya. Teda dungi te dag samba shavi dungi inde. Toma meba nes. Toma meba ne. Rang dag songne. Terchagi shembe jiba zemba. Kombi anges. Ana rangala as dungi juwa la. Musibe lo yi rangi ngangi juwa cheris. Pete hindi simje hengi dungi tavjo. Da ngoso se papa menjuriya wam. Ngoso nyuwa menjuriya. Teta na simje hengi dungi da sewa shawi dungi ti hindi. Simje hengi rangi da du songne. Terchagi shembe jivan zembe kona. Da te dungi kona. Shen te dungi juwa na se. Rang la seva kai lo rang ngangi juwa jur gobi. Juwa jur gobi cherhiva te. Shen la jivan zembe kona. Nyambe lo jiva. Lo jeba deba us. Tira so da driba yomardi. So da driba da driba shensin. So da gada nga izi ziba shibshe. Inti ziba yud da driba yomardi. Mena le ko kombe ange. Ini kansa be da jindi shen nera. Samlo çok sheba jigira. O de nashi. Simse shen jiba sungna tangbo ko jigmardi konso en simse shen rana jiba ziya lo jachuris. Karasa sosa da ziba yomardi. Tela konde en da jiba ziba lo di ngang jigduwasi. So kwenye gaya jigwari was. So konde jaturis.
So Geshe-la's reading of the commentary and explanation pertains to the stanzas 92 and 93, let me see, 91 and 92 together. And the explanation given is this. The reason why I seem to make a big deal about my suffering is that claim, my suffering, so, is because since beginningless time until now, I have been habituated at self-grasping, isn't it? And so I attach so much, like significance to I, although it does not exist intrinsically, but that's how I misperceive it, and I cherish that I very much. So that's why anything happens to that I is a big deal, isn't it? So it's my suffering. So therefore, I need to, I find it very unbearable. Whereas when other people feel suffering, I don't feel the same way. It looks like it is there, none of my business kind of thing. Yeah?
the thing is that, we can learn to cherish others as, same as oneself. Through familiarization and habituation, when we are able to really cherish others as the self, then their suffering also becomes equally unbearable, just as I find my suffering right now, isn't it? So it's a matter of cultivating the familiarity or the habituation here, isn't it? Although, there are no inherently existent self and mind, but because of our habituation from beginningless time, so we have grasping at I and mine, And because of these graspings, we find our own suffering very unbearable. We exaggerate the suffering, the intensity, everything else, isn't it? And we don't feel the same way with others because we don't have the same grasping, right, at them in the same. But now if we learn to cherish others as we cherish ourselves, in the beginning, very difficult, right? As we progress in that kind of cultivation, and we are able to cherish others like self, then we will realize that actually whatever happening to others is my business, isn't it? Their suffering is unbearable too. It's a suffering, it requires removal or elimination. Yes.
Maybe doing see what Shartse Pembe is Goba Majing. Never doing pictures. Pena, da Gometi, Jiguso donations. Oh, this was that. Titaru, Rebecca do sensation donation, so Sarge regress. Says Golia, Pemba Mewer, a Dunga Juji was. But they go. Sego is. The cars are better so in the Gumi, the Dragon last of it. Peto, that Chevas, Toa, comes and the Toma Mara comes, Dragon doing or doing the cars up. New Ashes, that's a Dragon doing it because it said because it's the Papa has you. What is it? Cockers go Pemba doing it right here, there is. Or this other thing doing the paper maybe doing it right here, so I call you buy and so much you go this or this.
The reason why we should care about, helping others to get rid of their suffering, or if you could do that for them, is because regardless of who is experiencing it, suffering is a suffering. Okay? Suffering is not beneficial to anybody. When that happens to me, I know that it is not beneficial, and I don't want it. And my reason is why I need to do everything here is because it is suffering. I don't want it. The same thing on the other side, all sentient beings, isn't it? So the reason we use is suffering, regardless of whoever is experiencing it, does not benefit, and so it is worth to be, tackled. The examples given is like, say, when I feel hungry, I feel thirsty. Nobody wants hunger and thirst, isn't it? Because these are useless, right? I mean, what good is feeling hungry and thirst? So if that's true with me, it's exactly the same thing with everybody else. If somebody is hungry or thirsty, hunger and thirst as problems or suffering, are unuseful, non-beneficial, and it needs to be removed. It needs to be taken care of.
Oh, the Kasa, don't the Tatang would dig in the dark sea parubo, here, Pemba, the order was Shago, the parubo, Sienna, Simsing Bishop, Penarang, Lula, Penderdrova, Sienna Shivates, or did that. So the dogs go Guba so the Cosegos Junction. Tapemba driver to Duya, the solar penguin, the Hiela Penguins. Said that 소소 동에 신이 동에 되다 다게 냐바 냐야 규제를 시에서 어디 라 고도 또나 어디 시고서다 군대에 동에서 거 애거 방고도 소소베 대금 동에서 거 방고 규제 가서 거 펜바메 네베 동에 방고 티 규제로 하시 저는 이 세계시 동에 되가 군대에 다니 펜바요 말바 저도 거 방고 그래서 직발에서 저 고중세네 거기서 심리学동에다라고 동에 세상에 직바 심리学대화다 형 대화 주자에 직바 제사자 내도 냠고리스 제사자 심리学동에서야다 대화 좀 비추리스다.
So the couple of reasons given to support the contention that self and others are equal is that suffering is useless or unbeneficial, and so it is something everybody agrees wants to get rid of, isn't it? So regardless of whether I experience it or somebody else experience it, suffering is a suffering regardless of the experiencing of the suffering, and so that's one reason. The another reason is that happiness is something everybody seeks. It's something, a goal. It's something everybody wants it, isn't it? So whether it's me or it's all other sentient beings, happiness is something everybody's seeking, and so therefore we are same there. And the other one is that we are all sentient beings. So as sentient beings, we have, we are in the same status, right? As sentient beings, we wish for happiness, which is the something we want to achieve, we work for, and suffering is that we don't want and we want to get rid of. So we are exactly the same thing, and so if we see those equalities deeply and feel effectively, then we will find ourselves working in the same way for both self and others.
Benadao teaching dinner, Simjin Shin, the dog, pepper driver sharing, Simjin Bishi, Pena, doggy, Lucian, Shevati, Shevaton, this. Taniba Gaba was, or did it conjure Simjin doing a series, Simjin Bishes, but so doing a Sego, or teaching what is, so Simjin Roa, Simjin with Judin. Chikwa Rickson was on the and so doing a say the Simji Sheda doing a museum, say a manibadi in Juma Simji doing a museum by Chikwa, the other Chikwatis. So the Judeka so when you that and Simji Shed the Algo so good and could go to Samare.
So the bottom line is this, that the reason why, when it comes to my suffering and happiness, I feel the need to get rid of my suffering because as a sentient being, I don't want suffering. And I, seek happiness and work for that because as a sentient being, that's what I want, isn't it? So look at the reasons here. So it's exactly the same reason for other sentient beings as well. Why we need to be concerned about other suffering is they too are sentient beings and they don't want suffering. Why we need to be concerned with their happiness or well-being is because they too are sentient beings and they are seeking happiness. So if we look at this thing, then we really cannot make an exception for one's own sake, right? Because how can we do that? The realities pervade exactly the same thing on all of us.
Oh, that is Chabadone, that Shimmer Chapter Dimsha. Around Gushi Yeve, Dag Dodge Rigi, Share the Mai Bishop Yamna, Demi, Wanja, Ranshi, there was somebody Jodi, somebody Jodi, Kong say, Da Ran Simsi Parubu, Shen Dewa Nidi, Sumbala, Dada Shen, Shepherd Jian, Chicken, City Jimeva, Sumbi Shede. Thither, Deva Sumna, gyuze khang shir da chikbu dewa shaye se tala se soba sheba shen dewe tala me zomba deni shen dewe mirik jing gewe se shen dewe tala yang soba rik so se udir da simse shen dunga se ya dewa dewa bere ris kar se so dewa dewa da dunga se ya rik shigo dewas udir da simse ima jiwa so da dewa mi dewa dewa dunga mi dewa jiwa rigaga songsa da simse shen de so dewa dogo simse shen dewa mi dewa de yawa sha da ris dewa da rigaga jiwa rewa this way.
So as Geshe explained that when we compare ourselves to sentient others, we are all sentient beings. So we belong to the same species, so to speak, right? There's no difference here exactly. And just as I wish for happiness, everybody else wish for happiness. It's exactly the same thing. I don't want suffering, nobody wants suffering, exactly the same thing. So given all these equalities or similarities, if somehow I feel like I'm special among the equals, right? As if my suffering should take precedence over everybody else's suffering, or my happiness should, how can we justify that, right? There is no justification, because happiness and suffering are exactly the same that everybody else is seeking. So we should see the contradictions, right? That if we want to see everybody equal, then among equals, how can we make oneself a special exception to the rule? That is an inconsistency or contradiction in thinking.
Waja shen dunge shen dunge songbar serigde kang se da simjing parubo shen ga dunge mende ba songba la da shen ga cheba ji yude je mebe songbi seri tedar deba songbna gyuze kang seri shen dunge jwa song sha mela da jiwa dunge jwa song riba de shen de meride ge shen dunge jwa song riba sewa ri so sa da ge de yuje de ba song ba den de te jang da shen jang ba jo de ga je 근데 저거 또 아니 도시저잖아. 도시 도민이 찍어야나. 서로 힘도 나한테 사고리. 저러다나 사고 말했을라나. 근데 그 마담을 해요. 어디 찍어 가서. 유주제 가가 송디에서 송날라야. 야 서로 대화돼야 돼야 등에서 다시. 근데 비신다 등에서 다 많이 대화돼 다 맞으나 어떻게 지내서 그 도고도다 약보지나 어디인가 야 그거 찍어야네 내가 거기서 저런 거 말이서 네가 거기 돈을 그거 찍어야 되잖아. 제가 네가 유익하시나 네가 살시나 간에 상하다나래 강가 제 등에 따라 등에인가 세자임보다 등에 세자임보다 네가 좀 찍어야 돼. 어디서
So Geshe explains that if we look at the way we establish equalities between self and others, our aspirations are the same. Who we are the same. We are all sentient beings. Given that all the reasons are exactly the same thing, to consider oneself as exception to exceptional case, it does not work at all. It's very inconsistent and it's going against the realities. The example Geshe given is says that if you and another person are equally hungry and there's a food, you just eat everything. Say, you know what? Well, I'm really hungry, right? I don't care about what you do. that makes no sense at all, right? Both are hungry, and nobody wants hunger. It's something to be gotten rid of, and food is here to resolve that issue. So how can we make one's exception and other persons, right, disregard other person's thing? The same with the clothing. Everybody wants to have the best of the clothing, right? And then you cannot claim like, well, I want to wear it, and you shouldn't. We cannot justify that because what our aspirations and who we are exactly the same thing.
Oh, they best the is good. The many to the door, they were going and stop Ravina. And Topje de Gasaguis. Churasago Maris Lavina. Queen Chipase, to go to the Chipase, into Topje Yondo Ravina. Into Gasago, Churasago Mars and the digital Luxudo said tomorrow. What did you watch here? Could you to Tadi ready? Nega Gueva, Juzega Chibali. Said by the Samaj Ravina. And the question is, I didn't the Churasago Gasago is in the Queen Generation touches are. No. This is show.
So Geshe was going back to the example is given that two people are hungry and there's a food, and of course if they do recognize that both are hungry, they will share the plate or whatever, then there is no issue, right? And that's equality. But if one of them claims as if like, I want everything for myself and you don't get anything, look at that. Is that a fair, or does that really make sense at all, given that both are in the same situation and both are hungry? They don't want the hunger, they want the food, same aspiration, and the same situation. So how can anyone get away saying that I want everything and you don't get anything, right? So we can see the unreasonableness and the going against the reality here. So that's what we're talking about.
Pachima never do she chapter. Rog doing it, she Mayan Jana, Teta Tobaja, them who was around she doing Sungbal, Sungbaras, Serik, the Kawser Dara, Senior Parabo, Sheniga, doing him in the Sungbala, Da Sheniga. Chebaja, Chia, the Chia, Meva, Sumbi. Teda Devasuna, Judea Giteri, here doing Joan, Sua Chab, Mela, Da Jibula, doing Sumwa, doing Joa, Sua Shiva, the Shedu, Meriki, and Gay, Hela doing Joan, Sua Riba, Sua Riba. Sewa Rexo, the Daki use Devasoma Tende, Tija Dashi Yaba, Jobos, or Telekaja, Tenzare. Rao Dunga Dashi, Dunga Yava Chikwashi, Dunga Mudeva Chikwashi, Segoya Chikwashi, that Chikwashi Shen, this is that. China Dunga the Segomari, Dunga Segori, China Deva Dogomari, not Deva Dogori, Lavina. Any or did that Changwood Reto Marva, so that he Gawachadi, Teresa in Sozo Big Deodabata, Dungasia, here you are the Rigmaris, Carson, Deva Chikbashe, and Dungan Mudevada, Tim Chikbashe, and Zidang rigged to Ganga Chikbashi, she said, that's all she would do. She could hear Carson, she is alone. Said that Dick of Miri with somebody or I said that Dick goes to Chidanson or direct chow or other salad is your salad, the Guasha, Tingal goes in Shida Gomar is loudly. Could Diayomara Carson Cochala, the Goa, what is it? Tautan or Chivari, they are social Goa, Shedal, Bugo, Judicia Yamara, Tisha Mesa, and the Devachi was on the child, the Goya Java, Chakra, so that you were Ragmar. What is it?
So basically, Geshe read the commentary and he repeated the explanation that we look at everything here. We're talking about in terms of aspirations, self and others are exactly the same thing. We wish for happiness, and we feel the right. We feel that we have the right to work for happiness, and we don't wish for suffering, and we feel we have the right to resolve in the suffering, and then we are all sentient beings. So all these reasons we looked at are exactly the same thing, and then when we find ourselves in a state of suffering or happiness, how can one of us claim as if that everything, like my suffering should take precedence over everybody else and resolve it, and I don't care about what's happening to you, or that if there's something to be gained, then I should get it, and I don't know about you, then that does not seem to be treating equally each other, isn't it? It's a lot of inconsistencies, because we cannot justify it anyway, right? Again, Geshe will give the same example. If there is whatever thing that two people want, then they both have the equal right for that. They both want the same thing, And maybe the proper way is, if it can be divided up, then they should equally divide it, right? And that's fair. But given that they both want the same thing, they both have the right for the same thing, if one of them claims that I want it, I don't care what have, then it indicates that we are not treating the other person as being equal, isn't it? Because there's inconsistency. Seeking the same thing, have the same right for the same thing, but despite all of those things, we are making exception for ourselves.
Sebe tonde me sede me beda nyana shedu mirigde tetana shima se maobana maoba tuso da nyinso jewe se dunga tada da jungse chang neba meshe chena ji songde se song miraba tela Tibetan ponye tonde tada dibu gyojo shiva miriba tewa joro usa. Tishindu paru tishindu maoba yebe dungi yebe tuso pombe dungi juwa tone tada norso bang miriba jode yebe dungi ki Never jayang, you dungaji, Shumba the Minibi shares. What even that? Simulation dunga says that the order is show Maris. Simulation the order, so the penny of Kayamatada, Dunga and Nuya Maris Lana. Tina the George Bena Sedul, 10 million, Giboyata, Norlu, the Lunga And Kya Shema Binson de Miro, Dejota, Donald, Debugazo, Shia, Tizoka in the Rigmaris, Carissa. Gizo to get Tata Soto JJ and Numarwa. But Dana Picacarsa, the gave it to doing it, gave it to doing it in the Tatachi and Numarwa. Timon that gave it on the bed. Yeah, Lord gave it to any big give you out Tanda big Kachaki, shoot dog or that here Gaga the 2 minutes. That goes on get over this one.
This will read from the commentary and explained, and all of that pertains to stanza 97. So should we think this way? that other suffering is other suffering. It is really not harming me. Others' happiness is their happiness. It's not affecting me. Okay? So none of my business kind of thing, isn't it? So to counteract that way of thinking, as Geshe explained, if that's how we feel, then when you are young, and why do we have to work so hard to accumulate wealth and work for your retirement? Because the suffering of that's going to come later in your life, is not really harming you at the moment, because that's in the future. You are not old, so the suffering of old is not upon you right now. So why you need to work for that? But we do, isn't it? Because we feel that's a reasonable thing to do, even though the future suffering is not affecting me now, but somehow we justify that I need to take care of myself, and also, why do we have to practice or create good karmas for good rebirth, which is in the future, and future is not here, and whether that is good rebirth or the bad rebirth is not affecting right now, but why we are so concerned with that, so that is the what we call counteractive thought process with thinking that other suffering is not harming me, right? So why should I bother? Well, then your future suffering is not harming you now, so why you are so concerned about your retirement when you're young?
Oh, dear, that, but same you give it to me to Tanda Shoma to see me go Marva, but the other she near doing it to Tata Shartse, Tata Koso, make it near doing your Marva. Then you are doing Tata Hazat in Gaza, Yoma said it is the Queen Tati Soda, and there is some thousand long to Ganga church was that was a Tava Tabji Java. Long to Ganga Mary, but do drive a cause I did a junior cause I can't do it. This is paid of junior cause I did a junior cause I did Kakashi. So that you don't get the city room on you, you get the Jumor so child, the Davis or yours child over. But this child over said that this is the she had reporting here to do so this is it.
So that kind of thinking that others' happiness doesn't bother me, doesn't affect me. If they're happy, it doesn't mean I'm happy. So it has no correlation with me. Other suffering, it is their suffering problem. It's not harming me. That kind of thinking is what we call a problematic thinking, which needs to be addressed. And so to counteract that, we talked about those examples. Let's say, when we are young, right, where do we have to work so hard for our old age? Because the old age is not here and the suffering is not here, but yet, we work so hard for the retirement. So, that makes no sense. Or that, as practitioner, we try to purify negativity so that we won't be reborn in the bad migrations. We do the positive thing, we have a better rebirth, but it's all in the future, isn't it? And when that future happens, we are no more here, we are dead, isn't it? So that person is a different person, and this person a different person, and so if we think that way, then all our practice and the foundation nothing is making any sense at all, right? Those of us who are seeking liberation from samsara, enlightenment, how does it work? Yeah. And the one who is working hard for the nirvana, he or she dies. The one who achieves the nirvana is a different person, right? The one who achieved the nirvana has not done anything, but got the result. The one who works so hard has no result. So it's just like the whole the system of foundation practice becomes so bizarre and a senseless thing. But we don't think that way, right? We feel it's reasonable to do the necessary thing for the future.
The channel don't about doing board, Takda Motor Chevata. Go she 所以的连把就这样没东西，统统的这能够把修个做面把送说是，我谈到的这把是的，他也对不对？那种牛毛用的，很多也没给这些嘛，就是，统他把统统就是连把这边呢，这个另外的东西的给这开始我嘛是说，工作样子写不来是。我就是，统统样子现在的那种要么统统接要么是吧？我就是。
So all the discussions we are having are on the level of conventional realities, right? That we are saying conventionally or nominally or imputedly, right? So we can think about, how should I say, seeking happiness, getting rid of suffering. And all of these things are possible on that level. We are talking in terms of ultimate, how should I say, realities, or in terms of intrinsic realities. Because intrinsically, there is no happiness, there is no suffering, there's nothing really, so we should, how should I say, keep that perspective,
대단히 신이동의 제라나 민에바 대세도의 민배도 냠베세 객세와 대단한 모의 동의 대장 다다제야 민에비시 다다 대세도시와 미대반 졸라 대단한 뒤타디 동의 탑시 세 메르바 주에서 하자 태올로시 조지어보스 호텔에다 가서 대 번호다 해이 동의 세리고 말이 대화 조르고 말이 해이 대화서 소소 배도 말 동의 누구 말이지 어다 내가 드레게 해야 되는스 이 하자 태화 조리서다 인베 타바드라기 저아시방 인소면서 더더다 배 기디 랑도시안도 양 예배 가들이야 배 기본이야 단다 승디 노다 드레 드롭니야 이제 그게 갈래자 지가가 배대 내가 들서는 내가서는 예배 동에도 승디 누고 뭐지 이 예배 동에도 내가 레스 사와보지 용고 말이 그래서 그거 가가 내가 다 됐다는 샤비는 그거 가가 다 돼서다 이 랑도 가가 쳇도가 사사로 제 남도 제메다 주종게 되는 주종게 말 세세다 랑도 가가 배 무대가 타도로.
So that kind of a mindset where one feels, that whatever happens to others, it's just happening to them. It has nothing to do with me. We don't see any sort of correlations here, and their suffering doesn't harm me. Their happiness doesn't make me happy. That kind of thinking is very unbecoming. If we think that way, then it becomes very bizarre, and we are going to destroy the whole foundation of practice of abandonment and cultivation, isn't it? Why do we have to practice so much now? Because we want to have a good rebirth in the future. Well, the future is not here, and then whoever is going to be in the future is not going to be you. You are dead here. So then one who got the result is the one who did not do anything, and the one who worked hard hasn't achieved anything. So all of this, how should I say, the presentations, become senseless and get destroyed. So we point out the unreasonableness and senselessness of thinking that there is no relation between ourselves and others, or their happiness and their suffering, with one. And we would like to stop there today and welcome your questions. And we go first to the online, if there are any. If not, we'll come back here.
Yeah, there are two questions. One's more of a comment. He says, this seems related to what Dzong Rinpoche said.
Can you bring your mic a little to your mouth? Yeah.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Oh, yes.
Okay. This seems related to what Dzong Rinpoche suggested last visit, that we should develop a holistic view. The problem is that the whole world, all sentient beings here, are polluted with suffering and its causes, and it is crucial that we clean up this pollution of suffering to restore the whole world to purity, free from suffering. So he wants to know if you can comment.
So what's the question here? It looks like big observation. Can you give me just a question?
Yeah, it's not a question.
It's more. That's just an observation.
It was more an observation.
Oh, okay.
So he just wanted to know if you can comment on this observation. Again, this seems related to what Dzogchen Rinpoche suggested last visit, that we should develop a holistic view. The problem is that the whole world, all sentient beings here, are polluted with suffering and its causes, and it is crucial that we clean up this pollution of suffering to restore the whole world to purity, free from suffering.
Okay, I missed something there. Somebody need to help me. So Geshe is talking about the holistic point of view, which seems like he appreciated, but then he said the world is polluted by whatever.
With suffering and its
clean up
causes.
the pollution or something, right? So what are we talking about? What kind of pollution?
Yeah, pollution for suffering and its causes. That's what he's talking about.
Yeah.
And so it's us, I think, as practitioners, that we clean up this pollution of suffering to restore the whole world to purity, free from suffering. So basically, to purify.
The Tajeton again, condition again.
Yes.
That is Gashesan Combasedan, the Yabudu de Roage. Tamu Nation of Zambolin Delia and Nature Carsawata, Tunge Mango Shibichi Roage, Tunge Q Mango Shibichi Roage. Then the Yores, the day songs are correct that they can Chivas Mardage, some Jishi Roage, that Delia King, Kongzu Carriers, correct some did the Roage. Manzo Chen Yamlen Chegan, the that is Zambolingi, Tungeta, Tunge Q, the Gatan was safe with those Roage. So by then Zamboling Depa, Tunge Mever Chasa Res, with Roa. So that the King, Kongzu Sumbo Roage. Think I just said to go to Marawage, or the King Sonora, Kongzu. Zamboling din again to me, she wish to me, few mango she wish to Roage. Jang as a chain Yamlen Chegan, they get a did Tama soap with those Zamboling to me that you get the Tama soap with those again. That's the King did all Kongzu.
Tagay shade or the shade of that. Patient of the summer so hero. That's the joy in this summer so here to Kagari, so Kagari, not the Kagari, teaching which you say you must be. Tada for the Tagishi that the shade or that.
No,
So the Tibetan Marisi. Today she would love in a blood gave a card to any gave a the order to the North and double. And she might do it, they don't care, Tata give out to your double. Koji contact the long ganga chair to do so.
So all the things that we have been talking this morning actually is geared towards that we as people of this world, especially as practitioners, we need to do what we can, right, to be able to, clean the causes or the suffering, whatever, because we said, we are all interdependent, isn't it? We cannot say this is the world, this is me, this is that, right? Because we said we see the equalities between self and others, right? And then it becomes a responsibility of everybody, right, to be able to, do whatever we can to contribute, right, to cleaning up the pollution, so to speak, right, in whatever way we can remove the causes of the suffering or the pollution of the suffering. We cannot be indifferent to that, that's saying, The earlier contention is that whatever happens to others, it happens to others. It's none of my business. So that from that perspective, then we said, it's happening to the world, not me, so I don't care, right? That's a wrong thinking, right? All this morning we have been talking about that whatever we can do, because we are interdependently connected, and we need to do. Yeah, so.
The next question is on how does the concept of karma tie into the idea of collective suffering and compassion?
Okay. Chiwai Shamba di Kenda, and the Tumongi. That was over there. That Tumok Tungela or Tagwe de go chak do wage. Tumor ya tunge ma nyang go wage. Di ene me so da ya nga le sa de go wage. Le da tumor gi kange nyang de de khar de wa yo re sa ge. Le sa de da wage. And tumor de kange tung nyang go wage. Je la khar de wa yo re sa.
De ya ben dwa chek do ji na. Me kange nyang do de ya ka so 제바 지다가 menja de so 사로.
이나 맞다 튜머게 튜머가 무슨 연구로 용자셔로 봐.
디다 레가 다도시 냠도 시데 도스 다 가서 데 소리 셔데 소바 저와 용게 냠도 레가 가셔데 투모 레사고로. 다 데마 소소 상도 사데 소소 사고로. 세 주미도 소소 미야 제시 투모디 미야 제시 데 디비나로 데 다부디버사 지디디버사 Nami do said, "Do you want
So there is extensive explanation of the theory of karma in Buddha Dharma, right? We can talk about individual karma. That can be individuals, right? We could all be sitting together, but because of our individual karmas, we might go through individual experiences. But here, all of us gather on Sunday. So we are creating collective karma, isn't it? So when this collective karma ripens, so it will, be collectively experienced, So when we talk about karma, every karma could produce different types of outcomes, Every karma has a ripening outcome, right? Its main outcome or the result. And then every karma we talk about has in English we call it environmental outcome, takde in Tibetan. And then every karma seems to have sometimes karmas that accords with the past experience and actions. So karma is a very multi-dimensional concept, and it's quite complex, and it produces different types of results. Sure. We'll come back to you. Yeah.
Thank you so much. My question actually pertains to the Lamrim. Can I ask a Lamrim question?
Sure.
So, one of the four qualities, or I guess 5 qualities listed, that a proper student should have is having great respect for the teaching and the instructor. And I was thinking about it like, how do we cultivate that great respect? And in the previous chapter on how to listen, I think the first of the 6 ideas is to think of yourself as a sick person. I was wondering, like, what prevents us, at least for me anyway, I don't know about anyone else, but what prevents us from truly seeing ourselves like as sick people? Yeah, so that we can cultivate that respect that's required to really put the teachings into practice.
Korangi kandishwe di tiring sungjo da mande lamrim roage korshune digrevesta ani digrela shaibage this gorda ken da Koran ker gi da samratan de di tangajo di mendosan ke lome sinyi roage ta ke lame sinyi da lome sinyi rowa lome sigen di ene so share tegu yobada roage inde gorda gu dos roage chesan di kuba de kandesh yungure roage that when around ya jig never that we do shit roage sigurd di kar lago res around never that we do shit kidan shit roage di chungba yin baina ani cheting lama la ya ani jig taba da roage we go lege so di quality ya can say na rona su roage
did la de ape never do you na ko chira kali ka wo na ko yin si ta shi ta ko jam ju ju shi sa yin de yin si sha yo ro 제가 다 가르치는데 다 디스타야 나사들 타야 소리서 이제 자자자다 와서 놓고 봐. 어떻게 구보리서 다 저는 뒤에 최대게 들어갈 동안도 나사들 내가 네 최근 나사셔야 돼. 다른 거서 알아오는 데가 가 말아. 코아 탐이 참 좋아. 그게 누구 메시가 뉴트 용도야. 어떻게 예정 좀 어디 써야 더다 최시고 어때 최신게 돼. 최대게 되게 멤버들이 다 제가 최 땡게 될 이제 고리서 거다가지
노쇼 노쇼
이제 그 남자자샤 대소도 냠내시 고리서
노쇼
그 저슈 그 라야 되게 냠내 마시 샤샤는 에네 편하라 말하시다 이 녀서 말하나 가자 대저서 미역고 들어가 주부 노르도 장가자 돼야 지거리서 왔다
I don't know.
So in the context of Lamrim, I think where probably you saw that is we talk about the qualifications of guru and the qualifications of disciple or student, right? And so relatedly where that's mentioned as you highlighted that we look at ourselves as if we were a patient or sick person. First, let's look at the example itself, right? And then we will correlate with in the Dharma context. So when we usually feel unwell, right, and this is something, we need a help. So we go to see a doctor, right? The doctor we can trust, and the doctor prescribes a medicine. So if we trust a doctor, so that's why we take the medication, and the medication helps heal us, isn't it? So like that, in the Dharma context, the kind of sickness we are talking about is not so much that, oh my gosh, I have this pain here or all of that, right? It is that, we kind of, inside us are these afflicted emotions. We are trapped in samsara because of them. That we go through this samsara, round and round in samsara, experiencing all kinds of suffering. So now we want to break that cycle, if you will. So we are sick in the sense we are caught up in this cyclical process, and that brings us a lot of suffering. And the one who is expert doctor-like is the qualified guru, right? And so what guru can do, the prescription is the teaching, instruction, right? So if we can trust the guru, then we are more likely to practice guru's instruction, isn't it? So through our own practice, now we're able to change our conditions of the situation. But if we don't have that much trust with the guru, so to speak, right? And then we are just simply, we don't pay much attention to putting the instruction into practice. And if we don't practice, then we are not going to change anything, right? Does that make sense? And so that's why it is through that kind of, like in that context, then when you see that, right, the situation, you are able to develop the respect for the guru. It's just like trust, right, and the respect are all sort of correlated there. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Just ask a follow-up question. So it begins with the recognition of our situation as samsaric sort of
right,
beings.
Being caught up in this cyclical pattern, right?
And then
that
following
brings
that
a lot
is
of
the
suffering, right?
Yeah.
And that is the kind of our disease kind of thing, condition. And the treatment for that is the Dharma that is offered by the guru. So guru is the qualified, like a doctor there, right? So
like,
that's
yeah. So it sounds like then we could contemplate our situation and really
yes,
kind of
we have,
recognize
yeah,
it, and then
yeah,
from there.
Right. Exactly right. We have to contemplate and recognize that. Otherwise, right, it doesn't. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks so much.
Yeah. Reena.
Thank you, Geshe. This is a request for clarification.
Oh, sure.
I'm just looking at overall how we're presenting this. It seems to me we are learning method here. This is method. This is a teaching on method. And if I'm looking at it, it appears like we are looking at how we are, from the labeling perspective, we're looking at loosening the sense of I, because like, oh, I can impute on. Let me back up a little bit before we go into the labeling.
Sure.
First, it seems to me that first we, on the basis of everybody wants happiness and nobody wants misery, we created this new context in which to approach this method.
Okay.
So on the basis of that, now, because everybody wants happiness and nobody wants misery. Now we start to shift this labeling of the I. So we said we impute the I on him. So it's not just over here, the suffering over there. We kind of shifted the labeling of the I and the mind. There's a sense of I. We shifted the bases. If you look at the and how we talked about it, and we also shifted the basis of the mind. My suffering, your suffering, and me over here and you over there. So we did a lot of that. So even though this seems to be a teaching on method, it seems to be leading us to wisdom. So
Okay, so clarification.
am I hearing things correctly, basically?
Okay, I'll go back to Geshe. Morangi di takasogure chiwasere mindu rowagen seshesh naro na samora kodan de digin men rowagen. Ta tanda ngadu de kare segur sidi kanliya. Ta da shenyiga di rowagen tewa de ba nyamba da tungen mande ba nyamba sada di chigi kabrish ma lembo rowagen. Ta kap din al te de kanliya ani ko tewa de ba nyamba da tungen mande nyamba yimba ina and so Geshe Gyeltsen Shingi Tewa Tungalia Nangju Tan the Digmid Lagorwage. So that they thought it that Kasora Nyamba de can that Dubiaga Chedo that Yamlengi Tablam Restungu is a rest of again. In a Tablam turned down the Dinamata de Ducalia any the rest tongue to us a monas Ducala Tapena Shuma to it, then get Tada Shen, the Ducalanganzuki Tapige and that Jordan Summer, Tanya Tadan show again. Mishabagi to get the Alani Nugum to Roage, the great Tawar and Alani Pentom to Saja Roage. Said the lab to do call the Shuma to collect a Chiducalia, Tamaza de Roage, Tame, the share up the Roage, Chalapa, Chidunga of Chidu, did in the reverse Roage. Well, Caso Takanzuina, Tundam Tempa somewhere again, share up the Chalapa, Chidunga of Chidu Roage. As an so Tangzi one in other scenes, you watch Roage. But didn't marry in any Cocarso or Tada Shen the Nyamba, a do to a level again. But in the inside the share of the Chalapa Chidunga of Chidu, in a manasa, Monaconachena, Pachitoni, Tundam Temple, Chidunga of Chidu, didn't in a manasa.
Alexander, Missy told the Begay. Tonto Temple, Jayadi, Joshua.
No.
Chida, Dakar, Negato, Kari was in. And so they are the here, the Karis, Loud, Kagaris, Koradu, did the so the Yungi Kagaris. He does so the Penta, so the dog, he Casa, here the Penta, he does so near Kagamis, Queen Nega Kagaris. So I do Tibetan.
No.
Till I did anyone. No, the game you got to lay, Kanga, that do. In Shimaya, they do the song you go to that children's layer. Ganga, Chaji Ganga made up radio.
No.
Kotita di Retaro. Juju get in, do you want to do with Juju Gomara? So that the tells you that you just told the guys, she do the same with the wrong doing it, save our Carson. The Shay doing it, the Tandu Mendus. Wrong doing it, Tandu, the Tibetan hero. This is what the said Master said to me that today we take Pedro drug. Juju getting in and doing tomorrow and Chashiganga tables that hasn't ever delivered.
No. Get a dinner, could some comments and what taking other this so again. Rangi to end this sequel and then I should sit there and say, Toma Mebanerwage, and they call a tad, Modu, tad, Zin, Sumberwage. That's the share of Chaki single Wage. But tad, Madu, tad, Zin, and association with Chandra, Sequoia. That's Shelly, I didn't combat the medical and Chudo Medding or Sagorwage. Yet I do the Shuma to which that turned them can use the share of Chalapati to Chagama.
My did it, Mary. They carry here in this year. And the Shang Laya doing say to what Jigma is he? For that he was nothing.
No.
Till I that Juba said, Yoma, so Nanga said, that Juba said, Danziam, Summer to me, Tamoko did Yomaris.
Or did you share of Chaluma?
This is the other. Chita Nanga said, Bear, Trouble said, Mara, you Yomara. Yomara, the Sinaco. Take care Tom of the Kong theatre, go shoot him a little.
No.
This is here about doing say that they are doing the beginning in here around what you know, he but get tourist, the peg over.
I'm not saying Tamake is a shiggy.
Maybe as I give my.
Geshe said that it's possible to connect to the way you were thinking, but not necessarily the way the text goes, talking at the conventional level. That usually we have a tendency to, even at the conventional levels, divide between self and others like anything, isn't it? Anything happens to other, it's their business, nothing to do with me, right? And why this is happening is because since beginningless time, we are so used to, right, the grasping at the self. So we have not developed the same grasping at other beings, isn't it? And so by talking about that, we are not necessarily talking about selflessness in this context, but we say it's a habituation. So we use that example to say, now if we commit the new habit of cherishing others, just like we cherish ourselves, then slowly we will be able to, right, think in the same way, right, attach the same importance to their happiness and suffering, right? That's what we're talking about. Yeah, thank you. Yes, yes.
In stanza 89, there's a mention of having one's discursive thoughts calmed, one should cultivate the spirit of awakening.
89, did you say?
89, yes. This is the beginning of this section, the beginning of the section.
Oh, yeah, that's, is this the same stanza we have? Having in such ways as this thought about excellence of solitude, is that clear? No.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
That's it, yes.
Okay, so.
Now, well, I have two questions about this particular stanza. First of all, is having one's discursive thoughts calmed. Does that mean that we have already attained calm abiding? Does that imply having attained calm abiding already?
Okay.
And the second one is it says cultivate the spirit of awakening. Is it about newly developing the spirit of awakening, or is it about stabilizing the spirit of awakening that we have already developed, or is it about increasing it?
Okay.
Because if it's about newly developing it, why present this poem? If this is a method for developing bodhicitta, why present it this point after cultivation?
Okay.
And maybe I'll have.
Okay. So let me go and find that Tibetan so that Geshe can answer that. Quran condition the sikte the Jeju Gyagu the red walk and show Jeju Gyagu the. It should be right around here, right? Yes, here. Again, the Quran Chiwani Shugo again. Shusa the Sigje the Dirish again. Tela Sobe number is Rogan. When be Yunden some Chenes. Namdo never Shiva dance, Changju Semni Comperchas Lawage. Did suggest the Koran Kona Chiwani, the Kapdilia, Karso, that dear Wake, Shine Roage, do tower around the Shagur Vesa Roage. Shine Yuba wanted that, and Taganashi, Changju same Yuba wanted down the Roage. The Shigi or Yaman Changju same down the Shine Kiku or Roage. Kiku and the Kujisham do the Chanjus Roage. What this says is now woman, but a Chiwani Roage. The Kadu de Yashine, you have a Shichigu or West Roage. Changju same you have a Shichigu or West.
That is the Shiva Magu. Changju same king that Kemaza, the Yaka Maro. Sit on with the Kenyan Gunga or Shiva.
We deal again, did it again, and again. Tell us so a number of years again. When big and then some Chinese Lavage. Namdo never Shiva das Lavage. Changju Semni Combat Child Lavage. The Kadu Changju Sem Shine Comsigure, Changju Sem Con Temper Sigure Ravage. Shine, you have a Shichig or Candares at the Kadu.
When did that then the Dirido? Even you sang the Redo, the Terrace Dundin House in the Gigamaris, even near Congress. So, even near Gumyard Congress, Chanju Sem to Congress. What is the other?
And the Chanju Sem
Congress did not. Chanju Sem Gemma Kagara, but a pressure, my Jeff on the time.
My dear, I know what temper chain in the kitchen.
That never do.
Shine,
Casavaja,
Shine, you have a Shichig or Shine,
you have a Shirja, Shine Gumzi.
Okay, so I'm just trying to make sure. So it looks like we're yelling there. So that stanza, Geshe says, in this context, regarding the awakening mind, right, it's not really specified whether you already have the awakening mind or you're cultivating it, right? Depends, right? You already have it, so as you said, you're trying to stabilize it, further it. If you don't have it, then you cultivate, right? It doesn't say specifically whether one already has it or not here. It's possible both ways. Regarding the calm abiding, right? This is where one hasn't got the shamatha yet. So one is reflecting on the benefit of being in a solitude set, then you are able to cultivate it, right? Effectively, that's what it's saying.
And then all these reasonings are, it's like an analytical meditation in order to find the object of meditation, because we're talking about, the whole chapter deals with concentration. So we have to find an object of concentration. Is this what it's all about? And eventually we have to find, which is what, bodhicitta?
Right.
What would be the object of, the end result of all these analytical meditations? What would be the object?
Something lose your wagon. That did not much Cheba Chedan Chedukan, Ya Jegong with Ton and Wagon. Don't that Ama Rabadi that when Benel Chin Jegong with Ton and social confidential wagon. Mipa the Jego Warres wagon. That woman got the car said the Chanju Sam command the rest or did look at us at the Dollar Jegong with Ton. Come make by the near quiet wagon. Make by near quiet, make by the car restaurant, Chanjus and the rest again. Or did look or rest again.
Yeah, 다시 냠지 군자 제단데 희네 주도 해고로 희네 주도 해도 희네데 가와 전자 주는 지거리디 다다데 다시 냠지 고모 냠도 고모다 희네 주와시니 다시 냠지 고니 이 부게
냠도
고모네 이 희네 주와시야 디케지 해고다
아 다시 냠지 다시 냠지데 희네 냠도 주셔
어 되죠 다시 냠지 고니 다시 냠지 고야디 희네 주 탑도 지고다 다시 냠지 고니 희네 주고로
semmi mi 신내로 자고 그러게
다 semmi mi 믹세 말이 기타데 희네 주야 돌미만 되고 신미만 되고 이제 카이케 말이 너도 너무 라레나잖아 선지 꾸도도 되면 희고로 다다들 지나 정신성 거야 지금도 어 대체 정신성 공세 맞지 믹세기 거 희네 탑마도 계속 해 말이 희네 공고리 희네 공대한테 고야데 가고 정신성 공대 인티 희네 좀 다시 냠지 고니 고메 고니 희네 줘야 되거다
the Geshe said that this whole chapter, right? There are two kind of running themes here. Of course, one is, as you said, the focus on the object meditation, which here the emphasis on equalizing and exchanging self with others and cultivating bodhicitta, right? But the other one is that through this method practice, by focusing on bodhicitta development through this technique, that we are also together cultivating the shine, calm abiding. Right, because shine, the calm abiding can be cultivated based upon any focus. It doesn't matter, right? In the Lamrim, we talk about using Buddha's image as a focus. And some other people are going to say just focus on a small pebble or a rock or a flower. You can cultivate calm abiding. It's possible. But here, the way it is presented is that through training our mind in cultivating bodhicitta, through equalizing and exchanging self with others, together we are also trying to achieve the calm abiding or shamatha.
Okay, but we cannot achieve calm abiding by analytical meditation. So I'm asking, so these are all reasonings.
Right,
this
right.
analytical meditation, eventually this has to lead to, the purpose of this analytical meditation is to find the object of meditation of calm abiding. So what would that be eventually? That was my question. What would be the object of calm abiding meditation, which is the result of searching for it through this analytical and I guess that's what he said, the equality of self and others. That would be one object, right?
Okay.
Or bodhicitta.
Oh, sure. Okay.
That's what we focus on. After being convinced of that, we find it and we meditate on it. Is this how it is?
Quran ki tadan di tande do di ma cheba mango shebe che de go rawage di chegom go sore che do rawage chegom che de sore chegom che ni shine do yo marawa se go rawage che de kan ya da chegom mango che de di kari tembe che go arsena wenbe ne ra che ne da komje migyu jo rawage migden de che go do sta migden de tanda de ro che bina 다 daksheng nyamje chegwa roge ane ji changju sem roga mikden roge ma to cheba cheba kona ge shine roga yo marwa sa roge so da di tonda yani de cheba cheba tonda da tembe che de mikden de chedap chigo ro karish ko ro sa ge
마 다들 금나데 당연 냠제 금나데 가르서는 리그 제금 레스 이나 꼭 조금다 빼는데 냠도 군거를 뭐지 제금 하나 신으셔서 말해
yeah, Geshe said, yes, where we have a lot of analytical part here, this is to establish, for example, equalities between self and others, and then, generate bodhicitta through that. But along with like this analytical meditation at the end, right, one has to do the placement or single-pointed meditation, otherwise there's no way to cultivate calm abiding.
So what would be the object of placement meditation? That's my question.
Right.
What is the result of all this analysis?
Right. That the cheba chede dubden so that mikten wama the tempe karicha go ora mikten care de.
야
The also something illusion or wage. Cheba tomna the chiku dos wage. Cheba tomna the shoe so that mikwa chege res wage komja. The mikwa the tempe karicha go ora the mikten
내가 저데 다시 냠제 심게야 통다라 이는 다시 냠바고 아니 다시 제야 공부도 하고 그거 진짜 어디 누구야 저주세 누군 거다
Right. So you're going to say yes. The bodhicitta is the focus, right? We are trying to get there through all this discussion and analysis of equalizing, exchanging, all of that. Yes.
제가 다들 먼저 남지 하시는 유래명아 뉴욕에 지도자나 에네 비가 제가 통하면서 공 에네 소소 스미스 마시버시 이제 까지 제메 거니 인 심지 동시에 상로지 코스고로
No.
단다들 아니 디데 상로 두 먹어서 저 나hiện 대화냐마 등에 믿어 냐마 인자 인 소소 대화도 나이 현 대화도 그도 세다 현이 대화도 그도 저 로게도 니게나 신치고라
So Geshe said, we usually talk about the two meditational practices for cultivating bodhicitta, one which is called the 6 causes and 1 result. So where the emphasis is on recognizing all beings as having been one's parents or mothers, then remembering the kindness and repaying the kindness, and we go that way, isn't it? But here we follow a different approach, so we don't need to think about that. So we said, why and how is it possible for us to cultivate bodhicitta is if we see the equalities between self and others, right? Then we are able to treat everybody equally, and so it's a different way, right? But the result is same. Both are geared towards cultivating bodhicitta somehow. Okay, so we'll stop the thing, and there is a prayer request. Geshe Thongme chamju shue du gen
Thongme chamju shungye tsedan denba Rachel Transarwa Nukura Kangye da Paji she chida Thongme narunas. We have a prayer request today for Rachel Tran. May she be free from obstacles, troubles, and difficulty, and may she experience peace, calm, and relief. And may all sentient beings be free from all suffering and purified of negative karma. May their wishes and prayers be fulfilled, and may they experience everlasting peace and happiness. So prayers for Rachel Tran and ultimately all sentient beings.
Okay, so we will do the Healing Buddha prayer, that one single sheet, double-sided, somewhere there. Toje Gunla Nyombe Jomden de Senzan Tebe Nyedu Donge Se Tozo Nese Sanje Menja Bindru Yaye Chanze Lo Teya Ta Om Bekaze Bekaze Ma Bekaze Bekaze Ranza Samu Gade So
Begaze, Ma, Begaze, Bega, Ranza Samunga de Yeso, Ha, Gewa Di, Nyodo, Da, Membe, Gewo, Rubjo, Dowa, Jeja, Ma, Reba, Di, Sal, Gebara, Sho, Lord Jiazi, Yutun, Bega, Ji, Gesan, Kongwe, Judo, Memba, Tenba, Zila, Wando, Jicho,
常年修根下来，
So the Mawan Dame, Quinjian Dongma, the Kari Jongzo, Nida, Seza, Jangan Jawa, Niwa, Yapse, Zhangzong, Denzi, Mabe, Shiva, Tenzin Jebe, Jingon Zebe, Xie Nikun Changzhu, Tendu, Rongdo Damzhe, Bebe, Beiyun, Duja Jiazi, Gun. 天上光当，切子总辈子，用作有人土辈鸟给，龙人得见那个白点吧，土点抗日大部小的，老那公民在把南大官典当周围，很多居民这边提来接，街上对接很多小店说，其实老面土地木浪的，街上对接典当上面。 少数土多几多，其他民本领导说，让将新建公布在方面做到能见借用这么，少数这些拉着他们这些大的米线交给我做，土地街道路上叫我也协助电班人别备用，他的这些军规。 养对年节文博小店说，今天送官强纳北面中，代表早晚说说他我，南大水电养大南巴也，头上烟点别多小店说，推着家政农村养百姓，上着南绝上进准备，公众写了送中这边。 代表马大全部小店说，前边东岸国王不着的，准备的浪是月梦着。 准备等待那些大家，给着新年全部小店说，开别朗多故事在大街，准备查查年做让这些上班的这结婚一些，顺便新年全部小店说，头上住了家位点点的，民众大街上面谁家，拉近这点点就别小吧，真的新年全部小店。 说说叫我谁去见老的，昨天当天上面听来，大家拉上大便点呗，其他明白两个人都说，抢救生着人不接，马街把那解决，给我娘把没。我呢工作陪我来说，冬年到我人不接，马街把那解决，给我娘把没吧。 公年公众别我来说，啥些别些这些没到账，为了07年的相关的，上街行动没得给我，如果能达行了，这不说，看着绕位过位新港多，平常的我马里周围，现在是我定睛叫做。 下边这点把多点着去，一当过热那忙着，你养大要面给我更多养大老忙当，这面去见别拉龙去，啥到浪街原点合作人，多去强给过把牛多说。